All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a blockchain that's taking a shot at one of the biggest headaches in crypto, those insane traffic jams. You know what I'm talking about. Crazy high fees, transactions that feel like they take forever. Well, this platform, Sui, was built from the ground up to be super fast and handle a huge scale. Let's get into it. So let's just start right here. Have you ever, tried to make a trade or just send a simple token when everyone else is online? You felt it, right? The pain of just waiting while the fees just skyrocket. So why? Why does this keep happening? Well, it turns out most blockchains have this kind of fundamental design problem that basically creates a giant bottleneck. Okay, the best way to picture this is to think of a road. Most blockchains right now, they're basically a single-lane country road. Every single vehicle, doesn't matter if it's a giant truck or a little moped, has to get in the same line and just wait its turn, one by one. It's a total traffic jam. Sui's goal is to blow that up and build a massive multi-lane superhighway, a place where tons of traffic can just flow side by side, totally avoiding the jams. So, the big question is, how on earth do they build those extra lanes?
And the answer, it's actually a really fundamental shift in how you look at the whole problem. See, instead of focusing on user accounts, which is what most chains do, Su's big idea is to focus on the digital assets themselves. It calls them objects. And trust me, this one simple idea, it's the key to everything that follows.
So, what in the world is an object? Just think of it like this. Pretty much everything you can own digitally, a token, a piece of crypto art, even a special sword in a video game, is treated as its own complete, self-contained thing. It's got its own unique ID, and the info about who owns it is attached directly to the item. This totally flips the script. It's not just a line item in some giant global spreadsheet anymore. It's a real, distinct digital thing that you possess. Now, to manage all these objects, Sui uses a special programming language called Move. And Move actually has this really interesting history. It was first developed by the team at Facebook for their old DM blockchain project. The cool thing is, it was designed from the get-go for one specific job, to handle digital assets and keep them safe. So you can see why it's pretty much the perfect tool for Sui's whole object-centric universe. Okay, so we have these self-contained objects and a super secure language to manage them. That's great. But how does that actually make things faster? Well, this is where we get to the real secret sauce. Sui's secret weapon, you could say. It's the fact that not all objects are treated equally. The absolute key is telling the difference between your stuff and our stuff. So, this simple idea splits everything into two buckets. First up, you've got owned objects. This is your stuff, plain and simple. Think of it like your personal debit card. Only you have the PIN. Only you can spend the money. So when you use it, you don't need to ask a committee for permission, right? Then you have shared objects. This is more like a shared bank account for, say, a club or a project. Because multiple people can access it, you absolutely need some kind of group agreement before any money moves. You need that coordination.
And if you look at what the Sui team says themselves, they make it crystal clear. This is not just some small feature. This is the entire game plan. They literally say that this ability to tell the difference between ownership types is what they use to get all that performance. Just by knowing who owns an object, the network can be incredibly efficient about how it handles a transaction.
So it makes sense, right? If you have two different kinds of objects, then you can have two totally different ways to process a transaction. You get an express lane for all the simple stuff and a more careful, coordinated path for the complicated stuff.
All right, let's talk about that express lane. This is for your owned objects. Imagine you're just sending some coins to your friend. Since it only involves stuff that you own, it gets to completely bypass the main traffic jam. You sign it, you send it, the network validators, they call them authorities, just quickly check, yep, that's yours, and boom, it's confirmed. We're talking near instant. Why? Because it doesn't need to be put in a big, long line with every other transaction happening in the world. It can't possibly mess with anyone else's stuff.
But when we're talking about shared objects, that's a whole different story. Let's say you're trading on a decentralized exchange, using one of those big shared liquidity pools. To stop things from turning into total chaos and to make sure it's fair for everyone, those transactions have to be put in a specific order.
So they take that more deliberate, coordinated path. This is where you need that extra step, consensus, to officially agree on the exact sequence of who did what and when. It's all about safety when there are multiple hands in the pot.
So who's playing traffic cop here? Who's making sure all this is secure? Well, that's the job of the network's authorities. You can just think of them as SUI's version of what other chains call validators or miners. And this is what makes these authorities so smart and efficient. They don't just use one heavy-handed security model for everything. For those simple owned object transfers, they use a really fast communication method just to verify ownership and sign off. But for the complex shared object stuff, they switch gears and use a full-blown consensus process to put everything in order. It's really all about using the right tool for the right job, which is how you get both incredible speed and rock-solid security. Okay, so we've been deep in the weeds looking at the mechanics of how this machine works. But let's zoom out for a second. Why does any of this technical stuff actually matter? I mean, what does all this speed and scale really unlock for you and me? So here's the bottom line, the main takeaway. SUI's entire design is built on one simple but really powerful insight. Most of the time, we're just dealing with our own stuff. And by creating that express lane for our personal transactions to run at the same time, in parallel, it keeps the main highway clear for the more complex stuff. It avoids a network-wide traffic jam. And that is the design that could finally give us the kind of low-lag, high-scale performance we need for things we've been talking about for years, like truly seamless Web3 games or instant payments at a store using the blockchain. And that really brings us to a final, pretty powerful idea. For years, we've all been dreaming of a world where value, where money, can move just as fast and as freely as information does on the internet. By completely rethinking how transactions work from the ground up, SUI is making a really serious run at building that future. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What new worlds open up? What new applications become possible when our digital assets can finally move at the speed of thought, at the speed of the internet? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.